House Intelligence Chair Mike Rogers. Chairman, thank you very much for being with us. From all of the reporting, it appears that proposals went to the Hill and both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees put a hold on everything until we know who the rebels are and where the weapons are going. Can you explain?
Well, I can't talk about the classified programs, but I can tell you there has been a lot of concern about stated goals and making sure that any plans presented met. I'm having a hard time, Andrea. Met those goals, and so through all of those discussions, I think both the House and the Senate, any committee here, would take its responsibility quite seriously, and it's a serious step on how we move forward to try to have a positive impact in Syria, and there were a lot of questions. And I will tell you that we're still working through some things on that, and there's no one here standing in the way of what I think the administration wants to do, but there are very clear concerns from both parties in both chambers about the way forward, and I think we're trying to address that.
Mr. Chairman, you know, you and I have had many conversations on this subject and other subjects, and always in a completely respectful and collegial way. But while we sit here, what the refugees are saying to John Kerry is they're dying, and Assad is winning, and they are losing the war. And who's to blame for that? Well, we are safe in our battle stations in Washington, D.C.
But you remember those conversations, Andrea. There are those of us, me included, who said we are a year and a half too late. We've been pushing and trying to nudge the administration to make a decision earlier. What happened was, the longer it went, the more confusing the battlefield became. You can't come in after the fire of the house is going and say, you know, why didn't somebody put it out? The problem is you have to deal with the fire as you find it. And so remember, this is important to get this right, is to do anything at all. No one today in Congress is standing in the way of the administration doing what they have expressed an interest in doing. That isn't happening. However, there are passionate discussions about how you do that. If your intended goal is to change and have a positive influence in Syria, is what presented get you to that goal? There were many in Congress, in both parties, in both chambers, who said no. And if you're going to put the good name of the United States at risk, you better do it right. Again, I was arguing for something earlier to prevent what we now know is a rising al-Qaeda membership, some 6,000 in the country. You have Iran is using this as a proxy war now. That wasn't happening a year and a half ago because there was no action. That has Hezbollah actively engaging in combat operations, which we believe turned the tide for Assad. So it's not as simple as, well, now we've decided, and why don't we just do what we want to do? I wish it were that easy. This is a hard, complicated problem, and there's no good solution, but we better get it right if we're going to risk the good name of the United States.
Well, let's stipulate, while the United States did not do what you were suggesting, Qatar and other countries stepped in, and so-called private groups, private funding to al-Qaeda-supported groups like the al-Nusra Front. So the complexion of the rebel forces have really changed. They're killing each other off. There are all sorts of assassinations. And are you saying now that it is too late to arm the rebels?
I am not saying it's too late. Again, no one in Congress today is standing in the way of what the administration wants to do. The difference is the way it's going to happen. I think you'll find lots of requirements and different layers of oversight that we might not have seen before based on the challenging facts on the ground. And there are no good outcomes here. So you have, again, you have al-Qaeda elements there that have attached themselves to secular units. That's dangerous. You have every flavor of terrorist organization operating now in Syria, people coming from all over the world, including Europe, other places, to join a jihad fight, which means eventually if they're not killed, they're going home. All of those challenges are happening. We've lost support of the Arab League. We've lost support of the opposition, we being the United States. We need to re-engage in that. That's very, very clear. I think Secretary Kerry, to his credit, came to the Hill and made some really good and compelling arguments. I think I think the administration and Congress have agreed on a way forward, and that has happened. Some of these things are going to take a little longer. I think the rebels on the ground want. It's not because somebody is standing in the way on Capitol Hill, though. That's important to know. But remember, we are very late to this game, and this game has changed dramatically over the last year and a half.
So if we were to use our own forces, covert forces, to train and vet the rebels, would that make people on the Hill feel more comfortable about getting weapons into their hands?
Well, I do believe that the United States should use its intelligence capabilities, its training capabilities, and its ability to vet. I think that would be incredibly an important thing to do in order to get weapons to the right hand and start building relationships so when Assad goes, and he's going to go at some point, what we don't want, I think, is a 2 or 3 year stalemate with the wholesale slaughter of innocent civilians. Nobody wants that. We're hoping, though, that anything we might do has the goal of turning the tide and building that relationship and trust and confidence again in the opposition so that when it does fall apart, we have the ability to positively influence the outcome. Remember, we have large caches of conventional weapons, worry me every day, and chemical weapons. Al-Nusra, you have something called Al-Sham, which is another offshoot of Al-Qaeda. All of those groups operating in the country today, that's concerning not only to us but to our allies as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Congressman.